Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the FTF Grand National Series. We had 26 races to figure out who was going to be in our top 12. We figured them out. Now it's time for the playoffs to figure out who of these top 12 will get the championship this season in the FTF Grand National Series. Round number 1 starts off here at Las Vegas, and it is going to be a quick and fast race for these drivers as they keep on getting ready to go. We'll be taking a quick look here at the grid. My name is Sam Dyer. Later on, we'll be having Seth Cole joining me here for this broadcast, but all these drivers hungry and ready to put on a great show for you. As you can see, top of the board, it's going to be Brad Wright in the 30 machine. That driver putting on a quick lap of a 30.959. Very good for himself. And then you've got other drivers scattered within. But, I mean, for our points and for the championship, it starts off here in the second row where you got the 41 and the 3. Blake Reynolds, top of the board here in the points, starting off this series. Round number 1, these drivers going to be putting on a show. Blake Reynolds, you got Mercurio. As we keep on going through, I mean, you got a lot of hungry drivers throughout this whole entire race to be looking at. Derek Justice is going to be starting in 10th place, but you got about 43 drivers all hunting to see who's going to be getting the win this season in the championship. I mean, you got Michael Cozy there. He's got 7th in points at the moment, but these drivers all getting set up to run a very quick and very fun race here at Las Vegas, as we're going to continue going through the list of drivers and where they're at. These drivers are going to be running a lot of laps here tonight. It's going to be 134 laps ran here. It's going to be quick. It's going to be racy. There's going to be action all over the racetrack. Like we said, 43 hungry drivers to figure out who's going to get the win. And points-wise, this is very important. You got 3 races in each round to figure out where you're going to be going. First round, you've got 12 drivers. We'll be cutting that down to 8 for the next round. So 4 drivers will be moving away from where they are starting. But, man, it is going to be a fun one overall, as it is going to be Wright leading the charge up front as these drivers are setting up to where they're running. 30 machine is going to be up front as the pace truck is getting ready to pull off here. 134 laps here at Las Vegas for the FTF Grand National Series. Pace truck is off and we are green as the 30 machine gets a fantastic start all on his lonesome. And you're going to be seeing a lot of drivers shuffling back and forth, as you also got the 83 in second. You got Mercurio and Reynolds still single filed up. Everyone's staying pretty clean at the moment. All the action really is back around 30th position as Mercurio already saying he wants to make a move as he's on the inside of the 41 machine. A great move on the back stretch after getting a great run through the exit of corner number 2. Coming across the line, it's going to be given to the 30 machine of Brad Wright, getting the lead here at Las Vegas. Wright showing off that he's got pace. He's got drivers that have been running all season long. You got Mercurio, Reynolds. Blake Reynolds probably your favorite coming into here. I mean, other drivers, Derek Justice, he's a multiple-time winner this season. You got drivers that are going to be looking for a lot of action here. Side-by-side action is going to be for that 5th place position. As diving onto the inside, that's going to be the 07, I believe, getting under Blake Reynolds, trying to make a move here and doing a decent job at it, still side by side. As the run moves on, the tires are going to be something to watch out for the first about, I would say, 8 laps or so. You could stay pretty wide open with these corners, and after that, you got to really figure out how to throttle it. Save your tires for the longer run. As a pass for the lead happens, it's going to be Mercurio in the 41 machine, getting by right, and what a great move off the backstretch into turn number 3 and leading this lap. Lap number 4, now put and done with 131 laps to go. These drivers so far, so good. The 07 car on the move, as he's already on the back bumper of the 30 machine and doing a great job getting by with the momentum. That's something to hold on to as we go on throughout this race, as all the Hornets' nest is back around 8th place, where you're just seeing a wadded up of cars stuck on the outside, not sure where to carry that momentum. That's Cosmic Snowshoe on the inside. That is actually, I take that back. That is Cosmin in the 84 machine, stuck there waiting to figure out where he's going to place his machine, as he's still green here for the FTF Grand National Series. As we continue to see these drivers all side by side, this is just the battle from 7th on back. Everyone else is pretty straightforward, feeling clean. This is incredible racing to see them all wadded up at the back of the field. That's going to be Butler. You got Johnson in here, Hawken, who's been a former winner. A lot of drivers trying to figure out where they're going to be putting their cars. Evan Brinker stuck on the inside in the 21 machine, and everyone just shuffling through. Michael Kazi going to be getting past all this, now leading as the driver still side by side. As Brian Mercurio still up front in the 41 machine, he's got himself a little bit of a lead. As we move back up front, it's the 07 of Brandon that is just trying to figure out how to get by. As the 07, he's quick and on the move. Other machine on the move, that's the 18. As Ray is on a charge. Ray able to get by right, our pole sitter. And now it's just looking like these cars are just checking out from the rest of the field, as we continue to see that they're checked out. Move back here to 7th place. They're still trying to figure out where they want to place their cars. They're still all wadded up, not sure where they're going to be, as drivers just doing a great job trying to figure out. As the more this run goes on, the more you're going to see that middle line is where you want to carry your momentum, get a much better launch out of the corner, where you can carry your speed down the backstretch, make these passes, possibly go on the inside through 3 and 4. But really, it's that middle line that you want to hold yourself. But you're seeing early on that inside line, the stronger and more preferred line so far. We'll see if drivers want to try to make that 3rd lane work, as if you're coming from the Veterans of Foreign Wars race that FRN was just broadcasting. They are going to be seeing a complete difference, as that is going to be Cosmin Snowshoe ducking it in, trying to figure out where he's going to be blocking his car, as he's holding off Brandon Hawken as well as Michael Kazi. And these drivers trying their best to get by this 84 machine, but Cosmin's doing a great job just holding off, making sure these guys stay behind him. Both these machines, as Kazi's trying to making a move in that 99 machine on the outside, trying to make the momentum carry forward. As we're 10 laps into this race, you're starting to see the difference in tires. Drivers that were able to save their stuff and drivers that couldn't save their stuff. As the pass for the lead has been underway and has been done. 07 has made the pass for the lead expected to see so far. As we're also going to be seeing the 18 moving quick as well. These drivers have been just showing off a ton of speed. Ours are front 3, like I said, they've checked out from the rest of the field. Go back here to about 5th place, and they're still not sure where they're feeling the most comfortable, as Derek Justice is in 7th, as well as the 99 is there. Butler, drivers that have been racing here in the FTF Grand National Series all season long, trying to figure out his first caution is out, and that's going to be the back of the pack. That's the 63 machine, and more cars in front of him having issues. as I believe that was the 63 that got spun around. First caution of the day on lap number 12. As we do an FRN recap here to see what exactly brought out this first caution, it's going to be taking a bit for us to figure this out, as there's so many cars. We know the 63 was involved in this one, but who else might have been involved in this thing? As we've got ourselves, we're going back, and I think we might have found it here, folks. Coming out of turn number 3, issues for the 63. As we hit play on this replay, just gets loose out of 4, and everyone else, no one really nowhere to go. Hard contact, more machines going around. The 22 involved, I believe those also other machines of the 68, as well as teleported to pit road. It's just a huge carnage of machines involved in that accident, bringing out caution number 1 on lap number 12. As that's our first caution of the day. Saw a lot of machines involved in that one. Pit stops are going to be utilized here, as our whole entire field coming into play, or faking or deacon, not sure where they want to go. As, I believe that's going to be the 18 machine staying out. Ooh, that's a bold move. And that's going to be on your telemetry, the 18 of Ray, running the 51 on his scheme on track, and we'll see when that changes throughout the night. But so far, you got a wide range of vehicles deciding different strategies. Bold move by a lot of these cars. If you're staying out, you're expecting this thing to go green for a little bit longer, maybe even a quick caution, but really expecting a lot of things to be kicking in. And I believe just hopping into the booth, I've got Seth that just hopped in. And Seth, it's been you just came from a Las Vegas race at night. We're just in daytime here at Vegas. I mean, you got to watch a little bit of Vegas yesterday in a different series that we were broadcasting. What is really the big difference here at Las Vegas that these drivers are going to be dealing with?
Well, I'll tell you what, I was watching, the broadcast here, these first couple of laps here for the FTF Grand National Series, and one thing that I noticed was a lot of these playoff contenders, you talked about them not looking like they were comfortable. I think what they're doing is they're tiptoeing around the track right now. Let's not forget, a championship wasn't on the line during the regular season. Just a chance to make your way into the playoffs was on the line. I think now these drivers are realizing, hey, I got to keep my nose clean to make sure I've got a shot of advancing into the next round of the playoffs. And I think they're a little bit timid now to be able to get up there and race it as aggressively as they were during the regular season.
Yeah, and I was honestly completely shocked at seeing how these drivers were all packed up, and they were so grouped up there for this first part of this race. I mean, we're expecting to see that as well, but with all the drivers that came in, I mean, we've got about 30 drivers that decided, hey, we're going to stay out and stay on our older tires, while you've got a lot of other machines deciding to pit. We'll see how well they can get through the field, as the cars are stacked up, getting ready to go green this lap. Overall, this has been a wild ride here for the first couple of laps, as our pole sitter, Brandon Wright, he did not get the best start here. Got to lead the first 2 to 3 laps, and then got passed by Mercurio. And ever since then, it's been a shifting rotation of who's really going to be up front.
And you talk about Mercurial, I believe he was the only one of the playoff contenders that elected to come down pit road. So he's going to be restarting way back there in traffic in the 30th position. And just going back to that first wreck, I mean, we saw there was nowhere to go for a lot of drivers. Mercurio's playing a gamble right now that he's going to be able to work his way back up to the front without getting involved in a wreck. So this far back, this early on, with the type of aggressive racing we saw here in these first 15 laps, I'd be a little bit concerned if I'm following the strategy of that 41 car, as, man, they stacked up in the mid-pack on that restart.
Yeah, they were not really allowing anyone to take off there, and they're still all stacked up in the back. As up front, it's the 18 machine array that's able to keep going, but they are 3 wide back here, trying to figure out where it feels safe. And Kane Cook, one of our drivers that's in here battling for playoffs, he's in the middle of all this.
You want to know how stacked up they were? Brian Mercurio was in 2 4-wide situations before they even got to turn 1.
That's Kane Cook, Mercurio, these drivers all in the middle of this wad that's back here. And this is the battle back for 18th, 19th position. And they're still 3 wide as up front. They're feeling pretty confident and comfortable. But man, are they still stacked up back here.
Got 3 playoff contenders in this group. Michael Frisch in the 58, Kane Cook in the 55, and Brian Mercurio's now been able to work his way up to 13th. So now drop David Shieldhouse in the 20 car back into this group.
Shieldhouse is back here, and now you see Mercurio on the inside, kind of boxed in. As we move back up front, side-by-side action for the lead, as they are all wadded up for the lead as well.
Blake Reynolds and Derek Justice here in the playoffs, the same number of playoff points accumulated. It's been a game of one-upsmanship between these two all season long, and it continues here into the postseason.
And they are still waiting to see where they're going to be running. I mean, that's the difference between some of the other leagues we run. They're about, anywhere from 20 to 30 drivers. This is 43 drivers running for the lead and trying to get a win here, and it's possible. 3 wide action up front, and it's the 18 machine still in the middle and still leading the way.
Had Blake Reynolds on the bottom, Justice on the top, and as you mentioned, that 51 of Malik Ray in the middle. They were almost 3 wide behind them with some playoff contenders in Sean Butler, Michael Cozy Jr., and Brandon Hawken. And look at that 41 of Mercurio. Talk about lightning speed from 31st to 6th in 5 laps.
Yeah, we were curious. How was he going to get through the field? And he's just shown it. Just cut it like butter. At the 41, Ashley's going to be blinking for a second here on my screen. So we're hoping that those issues can get figured out. But that is going to be something concerning if he's blinking out there and other drivers are blinking.
Yeah, Tucker Minter in the 10 car blinking for a brief moment there as well. And these are all drivers up there inside of that top 10. What a horrible place to be blinking when you're up in the same vicinity as the race leaders.
Malik Ray, Derek Justice, Blake Reynolds. I mean, these guys are all on top of one another, 3 wide for second place. And here comes Mercurio in the 41. He's on much fresher tires, and you're just seeing the difference.
Was there a car width between Justice and the outside wall of a 4? I'm not sure, but the 41 of Mercurio was willing to take the risk. And just look at how he's able to get back to the throttle so much sooner through the center with those fresher tires. Easily clears for the lead and sets sail into turn 3.
And that's something to keep in the back of the mind for all of these drivers. It's possible, even if you're back in 30th place, to make these moves if you got yourselves about 15 laps full of fresher tires. Malik is going to be tapped there by Justice, and they are all wadded up now.
Now, I want to point out that while Mercurio has been making his charge to the front, drivers that he was around, Kane Cook and Michael Frisch, on those old tires, they're mired back now into the Hornet's Nest, 16th and 18th respectively. Shieldhouse back there in 21st. So now they're the drivers I'm concerned about, because if a wreck takes place either in front or around them, it might be difficult for them to make their way through without sustaining some damage.
Malik Ray got a lot of damage as he continues to bounce off that wall out of 4. That 51 machine just continues to have issues, and now is going to lose a ton of positions. Once was challenging for the lead, now all the way back to 16th and more.
And a big reason that 51 is dropping back is when you get the wall, it just completely affects the handling of that race car. It tightens it up aerodynamically. That's why he's continuing to have problems on corner exit. That car just wants to push up the outside retaining wall.
As now it looks like the 83 machine is the other driver, as well as the 07, that used their chance to get tires and now have moved up to find themselves in 2nd and in 4th.
And Malik Ray, the troubles continue for the 51 as he was slow out of turn 4, trying to let everybody by so he could get to pit road, but there were just too many cars that had to pass by him, so he's going to have to limp that thing back around another time before he can come down to the attention of his crew.
Yeah, something to hate to see for that 51 machine that looked like was a challenger for the win. As their drivers come across the line, we're going to be on lap 25. 110 laps to go. Still a lot of racing to see, but easily in a blink of an eye, this could all be over.
Absolutely. I mean, we're watching this battle back here now for the 3rd position between Blake Reynolds and Michael Cozy Jr. Tucker Minter back there and Derek Justice. I mean, one thing that I'm seeing these drivers do, we saw them do it in the earlier broadcast at Las Vegas, even under nighttime conditions, that outside line driver trying to pinch down that inside line driver, and the longer the run goes on, the further up that inside car is going to want to push. And these guys are doing this, let's not forget, as well, on 26-lap old tires. It's not like they are out there on tires that they got on that last caution.
Yeah, and due to the fact that these drivers did not pit, they've got to think about pit stops here probably in the next 25 to 30 laps or so. That's probably as far as they can go, maybe a little bit further, just because they were able to save fuel. But now we're starting to see our pole sitter, Brad Wright, going to be coming through, and he's got a quick machine in that 30 car, but he's got a lot of time to catch up. As with Mercurio just being able to get up front and pull away, it's not looking very easy for the rest of the field to catch up to him.
Yeah, just to point out, we saw how quickly Brian Mercurio worked his way through the field to the race lead on those fresher tires. Well, the fresher tires have a couple more examples as well. Brandon Hayes-Cattell, he is right now in second. Daniel Roper is in third, and Brad Wright, you just alluded to, is just taking the fourth position. All of these drivers were on pit road on that last caution, as Nick Baker in the 9 looks like an unscheduled stop for him, so that's going to drop him at least one lap down here. But, I mean, there's 4 drivers that are up here inside of the top 5 now because they made the decision to come down, get the fresh tires, and did a very good job of systematically working their way through all the traffic.
Yeah, and they're doing a great job. The 07, is actually the fastest car on track at the moment, and I think he's got a chance to run down Brandon Mercurio.
There's no doubt in my mind that Brian Mercurio can very well move his way into the Final Four to compete for this championship. He was the 3rd highest driver in terms of playoff points accumulated during the regular season. Of course, going to victory lane, I believe it was at a short track. I'm trying to remember which short track it was. But, I mean, that gives you the option to maybe try something a little bit different here because it's a win and you're into the next round situation. So, for Brian Mercurio, if he's able to take the checkered flag here tonight, he heads into the next playoff races completely worry-free, knowing he's advancing into the round of 8.
Yeah, and it's got to be, a lot of pressure to be taken off if Mercurio can get this victory for himself. I mean, Derek Justice and Blake Reynolds both came into this with, not the biggest advantage of points, but with a slight advantage. They're really looking for a top 10 finish or even a top 5 finish. It'd be massive for them going up against everyone else. It's yellow in the back.
Caution is going to be out. It looks like it's going to be...
Oh, that's a lot of machines. That's that's back in 30th position. Justin Malello and others.
Yeah, Malello in that bright blue number 53. Looks like the 49 of... Noah Carmichael got a piece of it. Tristan Hagenstein was slow. Don't know if the 82 was involved as well, but that was off of turn 2 down the back straightaway.
Yeah, it looked like Malello was the initial wreck, and then the 48 and others behind him was the secondary.
I think Malello's just going to get loose and spins out right in front of his teammate Cosmonish Oshu. Actually, I'm not certain anybody else really got involved in that wreck. I think everybody else was slowing up to avoid. I don't know. I guess there were a couple of drivers maybe caught up in the aftermath, but not necessarily due to contact from the 53.
Yeah, the 53 spun out on his own. It was cars behind that just got out of shape.
And that's another thing as well about Las Vegas here in the, the afternoon twilight conditions is, in the nighttime, when you're asking for that car to stop, normally it will stop. But here in the afternoon conditions, you tap the brake to avoid a wreck, and the rear end wants to come around on you. And I think it was just a reactionary spin that sent the 49 of Noah Carmichael around after he saw the 53 was spinning up ahead of him.
Yeah, Carmichael getting a little bit of help there from the 82, I believe that is, or it might have been the 62. Just a little bit of a tap that just spun them around.
Tell you who did not want to see this caution, and that was Brian Mercurio. Now, he is choosing to stay out while everybody else is down pit road this time. So, the previous caution was an advantage to the 41. This following caution is going to be a disadvantage.
It's going to be a massive disadvantage. Everyone came in, and this is actually going to be a bigger tire difference than what Mercurio had on that last restart. So, Everyone's probably just going to blow on by past this 41 machine, and leading the charge is going to be the 83 and the 10.
That's really ironic too, because as mentioned, we did a previous broadcast this evening, and we saw the same thing happen, where second place on down left the leader out there on the racetrack and came to pit road. Las Vegas is one of those tracks where you can make that late cut down towards the commitment line before the leader even knows what's happening, and there's no time for them to be able to react and be able to, lead you down pit road as well.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult for these drivers so far, but I mean, they still have the opportunity. I mean, there's still a lot of racing to be seen for these drivers. Once we go green, it's going to be 101 laps to go. It's still a chance for a lot of these drivers to get going again.
And still a lot of chances for drivers to run into trouble as well, as we know that as aggressive as they've been racing here in the first 30 laps, it's going to just amp up even more when we get closer and closer to some nighttime conditions and closer to that checkered flag.
As these drivers are getting set up, I mean, this is only caution number 2, and we're only on lap 33. So the potential of more cautions is still going to be looming over a lot of these drivers as Mercurio decides to possibly, he's dipping back.
Yeah, what's this about? I'm not sure why the 41 is dropping back. I don't know if this is a self EOL, if he doesn't feel safe starting up there at the front on 18 lap older tires, or
I mean, there's
what's going
always
on?
the potential chance of equipment failure on the driver's end of things. But this is shocker to see, as Mercurio was up front, a favorite, and is now on the inside, gifting the lead now to the 83 machine.
Now, I believe that the lights on the pace car might still be on. I don't know if maybe he's just dropping back because he's going to bring it to pit road. We'll have to follow up on that. But yeah, very interesting that. No, Mercurio is. Well, is he? Isn't he? It's hard to tell. Yes, he is coming to pit road. No, he's not coming to pit road. I'm not sure. Yes, he is coming to pit road officially.
Officially, the 41 machine drops back from the lead and going to have 1 lap advantage over the rest of the field, but he's going to be back practically no man's land where you want to be, which is all the way in the back. Going to have to work his way all the way forward. Up front, though, who is now gifted the lead, is going to be Daniel Roper, and as well as Tucker Minter, and both these drivers been running around the top 10 area, top 10, top 15, so now they get a chance to see what it's like to be up front.
Yeah, and that's the great thing here about the FTF Grand National Series as well, is they've had pretty much full fields all season long. You've got 12 drivers that are battling to advance into the next round of the playoffs. That means that there are a total of 31 drivers in the field. They're just out there trying to win. As you can see here with this front row with Roper and Minter, they're just out there trying to get the W. They're not in the hunt for the championship, and so it just makes those 12 drivers that are battling in the playoffs, makes their jobs so much harder.
Yeah, it really does. It makes it to where you have to stay focused, run your race, and make sure you don't make any mistakes here. And a lot of these drivers trying to make sure they're set up perfectly for this race. And now the restart is on. The 83 is going to be getting a great restart here, as now we're coming to 100 laps to go.
Only 3 drivers in the playoffs restart up inside of the top 10 there with Sean Butler, Kane Cook, and Michael Cozy Jr. Highest of those, Butler in the 6th position, trying to make his way around Ryan Doucette and our pole sitter, Brad Wright.
Yeah, and right now, I gotta say, Butler looking good so far as part of the playoff crew. I mean, he's been putting on a really good show in that 35 machine. He's been trying to stay consistent and has been running well up front.
Yeah, Sean Butler comes into this race below the cut line, but most of the drivers that come in below the cut line, it's not by much. Butler's -2. Dylan Alt is right on the cut line, tied with David Shieldhouse. Schwartz is -2, and Jake Poulin's -3. So there's definite gains and losses to be made here tonight at Las Vegas.
Brandon Kettler is going to be, Kettler is, I'm going to struggle with that name, but I'll figure it out by the end. The 07 has been absolutely on a rampage. He has been the fastest car since we have dropped the green, and really has not looked back ever since he has gotten into the top 3. He's been a car that's been the fastest. I don't know if there is anyone else that can challenge this 07, but Ryan Doucette going to be trying to run him down.
Yeah, it's really surprising because we're used to seeing Blake Reynolds and Derek Justice be the class of the field, but you're right. Cattell has done an unbelievable job here in the early stages of establishing himself as the fastest car on track. Nice to see a familiar name in the field as well. Ryan Doucette, we're used to seeing him run some type of open wheel car at a short track, but currently holding down that second position as the battle is on for third behind him.
Third place, you've got Butler and Roper going to be putting on a show between themselves. They're still side by side. And take that back. Now it's between the 83 and the 10.
Just to update as well, we saw earlier on when Brian Mercurio restarted back outside the top 30, how quickly he worked his way to the front. Well, due to the fact now that there's only one lap difference between his tires and everybody else in front of him, the progress is slow. He is currently in the 30th position, has not made up a whole lot of forward progress since we went back green.
Yeah, and Seth, I mean, this is going to be difficult because if we don't have another caution where everyone's off sequence again, Mercurio could be stuck back there almost all race long if everyone stays on the same strategy.
Yeah, I mean, as we've seen, there's been double wide racing all through the field. I mean, we're looking at this battle right here between Cook and Roper. You can see how Michael Cozy Jr., he wants to move forward, but he's boxed in. And that's what a lot of drivers are dealing with. That's why we've seen a lot of three-wide racing. Drivers just trying to make a lane for themselves because they don't want to be boxed in that dirty air.
Yeah, and as long as the run keeps on going, the harder it is going to be to make any three-wide passes because the longer the run goes, the less grip you're going to have. The harder it is to stay stable with the cars around you. So you're really losing your chances to make a lot of passes as the laps tick away.
Got a couple of two-time winners back here in Michael Frisch right now in the 8th position. And there you see the red and white TWB Chevrolet of Brandon Hawken. Right now in the 10th position. You know, definitely for Michael Frisch, he was the most consistent driver during the regular season before eventually finding victory lane. For Brandon Hawken, he was kind of one of those late bloomers. Showed up, I think it was about third of the way through the regular season, went to victory lane twice and was able to get himself up inside the top 25 in points to be eligible for a playoff spot.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of these drivers had to deal with is I think for the longest time here at the start of the season, it was a lot of drivers that had either won because they were a late qualifier, and then they had to really continue running to have a chance to even be in the playoffs because they had to get within the top 25 points.
And the funny thing too was, you know, we obviously covered a number of races during the first half of the regular season, and then we were spectators for the second half of the regular season, but it's kind of like the season just completely turned around. Because it seemed like during the first half of the regular season, it was Blake Reynolds one week, Derek Justice the other week. But then when you got closer, when it really mattered towards the end of the regular season, you saw drivers like Mercurio, Frisch, Brandon Hawken, all go to victory lane, Dylan Alt as well. Drivers really realizing the situation that they had to go to victory lane because the points battle was just so close down around that cut line.
Yeah, these drivers had to keep it close, keep on running as hard as they could, and it really showed off, and it proved that they were doing the right moves. As we're now watching, I mean, this whole entire front pack here from about 6th on back, they're all still right on top of one another. And this is one of those moments where it's kind of nerve-wracking in a way, with everyone being so close. It's practically like they're bump drafting throughout the whole entire racetrack, and one simple tap could ruin just one person's day or everyone that is right on top of one another.
And remember how out of shape we saw a lot of drivers there on the first restart of the night, when a lot of drivers were out there on 18-lap-old tires. We're entering back into that area. These drivers now 13 laps on their good years, so we're going to start to see drivers getting out of shape yet again. A couple of drivers that I'm noticing are sticking to what they've been known for, kind of riding at the back until the closing stages. That's two playoff contenders, Andrew Schwartz in the 67, Jake Poole in the 00, right now side by side for 29th. Even though the playoffs have begun, they are still sticking to the strategy that brought them to the dance.
Just wait and see what will happen. Do I need to make the move now or later? Another driver that is in the playoffs and running in the middle of the field, it's going to be David Shieldhouse deciding it's time to go 3 wide into turn number 1.
Boy, he is going to stick it down there as there's contact up above him. That was Jalen Battle and Kerry Waterworth getting together. Fortunately, the Johnson and Newman schemes did not wreck each other.
And that's got to be nerve-wracking because as the car that's on the inside, you really don't know what's going on the high side unless your spotter tells you. And honestly, I think at that moment it's go, go, go. Don't look back.
And I'm almost wondering what's going on here with the three of Blake Reynolds, because he has faded back outside of the top 20, currently in the 21st position, and doesn't look like he's really wanting to make any charge to the front right now. I wonder if he might be saving.
Well, he might be saving, and the only reason he's back here is because under that last pit stop, he actually had a little bit of damage he needed to repair, and that was from contact that he had with the 18 machine of Ray. They made contact, and that's what's really, messed up some drivers that are in the back now, and it's just frustrating to see for some. But Blake Reynolds, at this point, he just needs to get the repairs done, which he did, and now just be in cruise control and wait till later on.
Yeah, we saw earlier that contact that Malik Ray sustained, how that really affected him for the remainder of the run before eventually coming to pit road. Las Vegas is so aerodynamically dependent. It's really surprising just how aerodynamically dependent it is, especially in terms of straightaway speed. So, yeah, good point as to why that 3 car is kind of mired back where he is.
And cars that are still side by side, that's going to be Travis Brown and Evan Rice. They're still battling it out here for this 12th position. Looks like Brown on the inside going to be having the better run off the corner. But, something I was watching is later on that the run goes on, the more that middle to high line becomes a lot more useful just because you can keep the momentum so much more than running the inside line.
About to be 50 laps into this race. 3 drivers are officially out of tonight's event. Nate Stewart is going to finish in 43rd. Nick Baker finishes in 41st, and Malik Ray will be right between the two of them in 42nd. He has just had his number 51 pushed behind the wall.
And the battle for the front runners is it looks like we're starting to see Butler, Minter being challenged by Kane Cook, who decides it's time to make my move forward. This 55 machine, I mean, we saw at the start of the season, someone that is great at super speedway racing and now showing off. He's got the talent here to do well at the 1.5 miles.
Yeah, Kane Cook went to victory lane at Daytona, and if I remember correctly, I want to say that it was also at might have been at Homestead. I'd have to look at that, but he had 2 wins very early on in the season, and we were talking about Brandon Hawken having 2 wins, and his goal was to get into the top 25. For Kane Cook, it was trying to show up enough times to remain in the top 25 in the point standings.
Yeah, there were a couple of times where we were nervous if Kane Cook was even going to have a potential chance to make it into the top 25 because he was missing so many races, but end of the season started showing up and proving why he deserves to be in our top 12.
Got a good battle going on here just outside of the top 10, and it's between a couple of drivers we saw earlier on battling up inside the top 5. Daniel Roper right now in 10th, Brad Wright there in 11th. This is definitely the part of the race now where we're going to see who has the ability to set their car up for the long run. Now, just to mention that this is a fixed setup. Everybody has the exact same setup, but there is a difference in driver approach, the way they head into the corner, their throttle control, how they exit the corner, the line they run, as to how they're able to preserve those tires and keep that speed up for the longer the run goes.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of drivers start to think, hey, fixed setup, everyone's on equal ground, and that's right. You are on equal ground. It's all about your talent at that point of how well can you conserve and protect your car. And, we're starting to see a lot of action within the middle of the field, a lot of movement up in our middle of around 5th place, where we're seeing the 99 getting by a couple of other machines, and you're starting to see guys that we're used to seeing up front battling for the lead. They're starting to get up there, as well as the battle for the lead is actually starting to heat up as Ryan Doucette is starting to catch up to our leader.
I saw the 35 of Sean Butler dropping back, went back to confirm. He brushed the wall off of turn 4 while battling at the time for 3rd place with Kane Cook. He has now lost positions to a number of playoff contenders, not only Cook but also Cozy Jr., Frisch, and Hawken have gone around him. He's dropped from 3rd back to 8th.
Yeah, that is something to keep our eyes on as the drivers are still running hard, and we're now at 80 laps to go. We're inching closer and closer to that halfway marker. Still haven't seen ourselves have a green flag pit stop, and the drivers At the moment, if we stay green to the end, they will have to do a green flag pit stop. We're also inching closer and closer to that marker where we've been seeing our couple of cautions so far, where drivers start to get loose.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I mean, with drivers getting loose, if a car snaps around up here towards the front, there's going to be oncoming traffic. In all likelihood, a caution will be thrown, but the field is relatively spread out right now, so I do see the possible potential this thing could go into a long green flag run. And to your point, drivers have a lot of difficulty coming to Las Vegas under nighttime conditions. I can't imagine the slick feeling they're going to be having when they have to try and bring their car down pit road here under the afternoon conditions, as Butler again gets the wall, and that time it was a harder hit.
We were on board with him when that happened. Now he's going to be dropping back to 12th place. This is 35 machine. Sean Butler, what looked like something that it could possibly conserve, is now imploding for this 35 machine. Once was running around 3rd place. Now it looks like he'll be struggling just to finish in our top 20.
I remember how badly we saw the right side damage affect Malik Ray, who was up front in the early stages of this race. This is not going to be good for Sean Butler on 2 counts. Number 1, the handling of that car is going to continue to go away sooner than the other drivers. Number 2, they may have to make a choice under green flag pit stops whether or not to just leave the damage so that he doesn't lose time on a green flag pit stop.
It's going to be difficult choices to be made. But as we move up front, our leaders are starting to catch up to lap traffic, and now it's time for the evasive moves of when do you make these passes on the lap cars, and where do the lap cars decide to put themselves, as it looks like a lot of them decided to go on the high side.
Yeah, it's incredible to think Las Vegas is a 3-groove track. But when you come up off the corner, there's really only 2 lanes you're able to run, right up against the wall and the middle line. Nobody really goes way down to the inside unless you're maybe trying to make a move for the win on the final lap. So it's almost like what turns into a 2-lane or a 3-lane highway all of a sudden merges into 2. That makes it difficult for the lap down machines. Caution!
Caution in the back, as drivers having issues, and I believe that's going to be Travis Brown that might be the cause of this one.
A driver that was running for the most part outside of the top 30. And I'm not necessarily certain if he had some contact. Oh, he did. Playoff contender David Shieldhouse.
Shieldhouse and Brown making a little bit of contact here, coming out of 4, and they both go spinning, bringing out our first caution, and Brown then will drift up and then come to a stop up at the racing surface right there, and that's what brings out our second caution of the day.
Yeah, one thing I'm noticing too, the longer the run goes on, the more difficult it is for a driver that's stuck to the outside line in a battle to keep it off the wall coming off of turn 4. That's what got Sean Butler into trouble earlier. And it looked like when Shieldhouse was to the inside of Travis Brown, he jerked the car hard left to avoid hitting the wall. Back end snapped around. That's why he and the 20 went for a spin through the infield grass.
Yeah, we're going to be taking a little bit of off on an airborne look at this and just getting loose. And like you said, there's only a couple of lanes you can hold coming out of the corner, and just both drivers looking for the same real estate.
Now, I don't think this is going to affect David Shieldhouse that badly. However, mention the fact that this is a very aerodynamic track. It'll be interesting to see that contact to the right front, if that really does affect him, especially in traffic, or if they're going to be able to get that thing beaten out pretty well for him to be able to remain up to speed.
Well, Seth, we always talk about you got to try something different. Try something that maybe someone else isn't going to be thinking about. Blake Reynolds is trying something completely different. He's staying out while the rest of the field decides to come in, and he's on 29 lap old tires.
But, I like this strategy because, who knows how long we might have of a run at the closing stages of this race. Blake Reynolds needs to know what he's going to have underneath him just in case he's going to have to just make one more pit stop and maybe have to run, about maybe another 30 to 40 laps on a set of tires to the checkered flag. You got to be ready for every contingency, plus the fact Blake Reynolds has the luxury to do this. 49 playoff points accumulated during the regular season, and thusly, 57 playoff points accumulated during the regular season, I should say, and so 49 points ahead of the cutoff line. I mean, both he and Derek Justice just have to pretty much finish the next 3 races, and they advance into the next round of the playoffs, so why not go outside the box in terms of strategy, try and rack up some more wins?
Now, Seth, I'm trying to remember. I know we got other leagues that we broadcast here on the Flatout Racing Network that have tire strategies where you actually have a limited amount of tires you can work with. Is that here in the FTF Grand National Series?
No, FTF Grand National Series, unlimited amount of tires here for these drivers. So this is fully just a strategy call on the part of Blake Reynolds, not due to the fact that it's a limited number of tires available to them.
So these drivers willing to try anything at this point, and you've got tires to work with. But Blake Reynolds deciding, I mean, he's going to be on 29 lap old tires compared to the rest of the field. That is such a major gap. Oh man, that is huge. We're coming up to the halfway marker of this race. Once that comes, all these drivers are going to be thinking, hey, who's going to be left in this race? We've only had 3 cautions so far, but we've already seen a handful of drivers already out of this race.
And I know that really none of our playoff contenders have been involved in anything, with maybe the exception of what we just saw there with David Shieldhouse. But don't think that these playoff contenders are safe. The broadcast that we just came off of, there were 7 cars on the lead lap. On the following restart, all 7 cars were involved in a wreck. So as we get closer and closer to the end of this race and the aggressiveness kicks up, these playoff contenders are going to have to be very aware of their surroundings and try and find out where the eye of the storm may be.
Blake Reynolds still leading the charge, and then he's going to have Wetterworth on his outside in the 12 machine. So a lot of drivers that we haven't really seen up front getting a chance to see if they can be up front, as our front 2, both on old tires. We'll see if wheel spin is going to be something to worry about on this restart.
Yeah, we'll also have to see how anxious drivers behind them, like Ryan Doucette, Brandon Cattell, Chuck Minter, Kane Cook, are going to be to try and take them 3 wide, because remember, we saw a number of drivers on the first restart were on older tires, and everybody trying to take advantage of track position were 3 and 4 wide racing towards the middle of the pack. So, if we end up getting a stack up again like we did on the first restart, we could end up seeing the same type of side-by-side racing and maybe another quick caution.
Yeah, and something else that we were noticing on our previous broadcast, because that was at Las Vegas as well, we were seeing that drivers were able to really have a good first 5 to 6 laps, and then some drivers would drop off for about 15 laps, and then they would come back up. I think that's what we were starting to see there a little bit with the 07 of Cattell, that he was being able to have a very quick couple of laps, then he would drop off a bit, but still be able to stay up front, and then he would just get so much faster by the end of the stint. So that 07 probably has the setup to work for short run and long run. I mean, the way that he's just driving style, it just works for that.
I think the big thing for Cattell, clean air. As soon as he gets out in clean air, he is gone, but he has to be careful when he's back in dirty air. As Blake Reynolds got himself a good jump there, Waterworth wasn't sure when the 3 was going to go, stacked up the whole outside line.
3 machine got himself already up to a half a second gap, but now he's got Ryan Doucette to watch out for. This 75 machine is hugging that white line, and he's coming.
And we are 4 wide, middle of the pack there. That's Evan Brinker, Kane Cook. Cattell is in that mix along with the older tires of Waterworth. It's now 3 wide through 3 and 4, and the guy that really lost out on that one was Kane Cook, because he was trapped in that outside line on the restart.
And now Blake Reynolds is about to be swallowed up in all of this, as he lost the lead quite quick to Ryan Doucette, who now is trying to pull away from the rest of the field. As we'll stay on board here is Blake Reynolds. He's the one who we really have a favorite to make it into the next round. He's still stuck in the middle of all this action. The 21 machine of Brinker is going to be trying to hug that inside line. There's a little bit of contact there with Justice and Reynolds.
Boy, how ironic is that? 2 of the strongest cars this season making contact.
Blake Reynolds spinning around, saving it though. Oh my goodness. I don't know how he
saved that in the middle of traffic.
He saved it in the middle of traffic. He was completely out of shape and didn't even go on the apron. Blake Reynolds, even on old tires, amazing drives by the 3 machine. We got to move back. I mean, I would say let's move back up, but behind Blake Reynolds is still a whole bunch of cars that are 3 wide. And in the middle of that, that's Sean Butler.
And I'll tell you what, we got to give credit to Blake Reynolds for that save, but give credit to Ryan Williamson, the 28, for backing off for him to be able to recover it as well, because you're right, that could have very well been a huge wreck on the front straightaway.
This is what we're seeing on action. These are all battles from 20th on back. You've got Mercurio in here Butler, Shieldhouse, a lot of heavy contenders here in the playoffs, stuck in the middle of all this chaos of 3 and 4 wide. And it looks like Shieldhouse got a little bit of contact there. I believe that was with McAdams.
Yeah, McAdams threw a block on him off of turn 2. Shieldhouse was going to have none of it, stuck his nose down to the inside, and now is going to be 3 wide behind them there with Gary Waterworth. I think that's Tristan Hagenstein in the inside with McAdams up the middle, that 12 continuing to fall. But yeah, David Shieldhouse trying to come back from getting involved in that spin off of turn 4 that wasn't of his own making, and almost got into the side there of Brian Mercurio in a battle for 21st.
And now who's dropped back here? That's going to be Blake Reynolds now, who is stuck in the clutches of cars that are going to be 2, 3, almost 4 wide behind him, as they're still having issues back here. This is all that challenging for the top 30 position. I mean, this is wild to see, as they're still stacked up back here.
It's all a question of how far back is Blake Reynolds eventually going to drop before we end up either having ourselves maybe our final pit stop of the day under green, or maybe have a caution come out. Right now, he is mired back in 30th, about to lose a couple more spots. Jack Painter goes around. Justin Malello goes around. There goes Christopher B. Williams. I mean, he's about to drop outside of the top 35.
Yeah, and he's going to continue to drop back, but now is outside of the Hornets' nest. We'll move back up front, as Derek Justice, after that little bit of contact that he had, is up to 9th place, trying to move up forward, but a lot of these drivers still single file.
Ryan Doucette is now your new race leader over Tucker Minter. Michael Cozy Jr. now the highest running of the playoff contenders inside the podium in 3rd, and right now you've only got, I believe, 2 drivers, 2 playoff contenders up inside of the top 5, and I think 5 up inside of the top 10. I mean, that's less than half of our playoff contenders that are in the top 10 right now with the struggles we've seen some others have.
Yeah, it's just a difference of strategies that have put some drivers back. I mean, Mercurio, one of our heavy favorites that were up in the top 3 for the start of this race, had to drop back after some strategy calls, put him back in now he's trying to make his way forward, as, you know, a lot of our heavy contenders in the middle of the field, where it's still a lot of cars all on top of one another as we go back to about 17th place, where we've got Cosmin Ishinoshu. You got, oh my goodness, Butler almost decided to go under Shieldhouse and thought about making it 3 wide, and that could have been terrible to see.
Yeah, this is where all the fun is right now. Shieldhouse, Butler. You've got Jalen Battle, Brian Mercurio. Oh, Butler got so close to getting into Travis Brown there off of turn 2. I mean, these guys are not giving an inch. And I mean, for Shieldhouse and Butler, I mean, the 2 of them have already made contact with either the wall or with another car. They're racing as aggressively as possible because they know everyone's on a level playing field as far as tires. They've got to claw and fight their way back up to the front.
Make your moves now, but in the next about 3 laps or so, your tires are going to be toast, and all these bold moves that we've been seeing, it's going to be torturous. As I mean, we're getting closer and closer to 20 laps on these tires, and that's when we were seeing a lot of drivers hitting the outside wall out of 4 and out of 2. So continue to keep our eyes out for the next 3 to 4 laps when we start to get inside that window.
Now, do I believe that these drivers are going to go green to the end? Based on the racing, no. But let's speculate that we do go green to the end. These guys came to pit road back with 74 laps to go. Be interesting to see when they decide to actually make that final pit stop, maybe split these final 74 laps in half, maybe come to pit road somewhere around, you know, lap 37 to go, 39 to go, somewhere in that window, or try and stretch it maybe as far as they possibly can, because just looking at the lap times right now, if we use our race leader Ryan Doucette as an example, he's running about 8/10 slower than his fastest lap, and that's just on 14-lap-old tires.
Yeah, right now these drivers still trying to figure out where they're going to be running. I'm watching the 07 of Kettle. I mean, he's been trying a different lane than the rest of the field. He's actually kind of been wall riding through 3 and 4, getting that momentum into the front stretch. This time decided to follow suit on Kane Cook. But, you know, certain drivers, they're going to be searching for speed where other drivers really haven't. Because if you're stalled out all running the same line, you got to try something different at some point.
And it's interesting too because there's some drivers we're seeing here either just inside the top 10 or just outside the top 10. We can't count them out because the track is continuing to change. You can now see the entire back straightaway at certain points is starting to get completely covered in shadow. So as this track continues to cool heading towards the nighttime conditions, it may favor some of the drivers that have been struggling early.
As we move up for the lead, Ryan Doucette doing a fantastic job leading this thing, but he's got some hungry contenders behind him. You got Roper in third, and then you also got Tucker Minter, who is sitting in second place in that 10 machine. He's been waiting and lingering for Ryan Doucette to make a slip up.
Michael Cozy Jr. and Brandon Hawken, the only two of our playoff contenders right now up inside of the top 5. And of course, both of these drivers multi-time winners this season. We've already talked about the playoff points that were accumulated by Derek Justice and Blake Reynolds. I mean, these two drivers weren't able to really reap the rewards of playoff points just based on the fact that, Michael Cozy Jr. missed a number of races. Brandon Hawken missed a good chunk of the first half of the regular season. So right now, I think for the two of them, they're just basically trying to level the playing field here heading towards that round of 8.
Yeah, the round of 8 is going to be something to watch out for. But first, we got to get by these first 3 races in our first round of the playoffs. And a lot of drivers hungry to run well. And the 99 of Cozy Jr. feeling good. I mean, he's not really in any danger, as well as Hawken. I mean, both of them running 4th and 5th. And not a lot of... Oh, no, the 10 blinked. And that's what got him in trouble there.
He had a tremendous save there through turns 1 and 2 after the contact between himself and Roper. Gets the wall there, though. What a tough break there, and as you said, a horrible time to blink for Tucker Minter in that 10 machine.
We were just riding on board, thought he was in a comfortable position, but that is the issue sometimes whenever you're racing online. Caution in the back.
Caution's going to come out. It's Blake Reynolds in the 3, spinning it around the back straightaway.
Blake Reynolds out of turn number 2, the 3 machine having issues, and we'll see if it was himself or if it was by himself. As I say that,
was nobody around him.
On my end, we did not capture it. I'm so sorry for that, but there's the end result. 3 machine already spun around by himself. He was on the much older tires, expecting he was going to have to pit in the next 5 laps or so. With his caution, safe and sound, a lot of drivers now can try some strategies out.
Well, Blake Reynolds, that spin off of turn 2 onto the back straightaway, there were a couple of stragglers back there, and so with oncoming traffic, the caution thrown, he's actually very lucky that that caution came out because race officials might not have thrown the yellow flag if there hadn't been any drivers behind him.
Coming into the pits, leading the charge, Ryan Doucette, as well as the 07. So a little bit of a change up for some of these drivers.
We'll see how this is going to play out because, I don't know, I'm a little bit concerned just based on what we saw happen to Blake Reynolds on the last restart, how he dropped like a rock, and I think he was about 18 laps older tires than everybody else behind him. This is 20 lap older tires for guys like Roper, Cozy, Hawk, and Cook that are all staying out, unless they're all planning to come to pit road the next time around and maybe be 1 lap advantage on tires, but I don't know why you'd give up all that track position to do that.
I actually went back, and it's was a difference of 25 laps that Reynolds was on compared to the rest of the field. Also, you had Waterworth, that was on the same strategy as Blake Reynolds. So both those drivers, happy to see this caution come out, as both of them were not a lap down just yet, and allows them to get fresh tires, but also they're probably going to be in the back.
Now, I know that obviously we haven't mentioned their names here tonight. I think we really need to. They've stayed out, and they're up inside the top 10, but they were inside the top 15 even before that caution came out. Some good runs for some of the drivers that had to race their way in tonight. The Lightning McQueen, number 37 there, the livery on Osen Walsh, and right behind him, the 54 of Austin Johnson. Some great performances out of both of those drivers.
Yeah, both drivers deciding, hey, let's put on a great show, and they've done that so far. Both surviving through all of the chaos, because I'm pretty sure they have both been inside of either the front wadded up group or even in the back sometimes.
And the interesting thing is too, we got 12 drivers that are battling for the championship, but it's a constant battle as well down around that 25th position in the points because, a lot of these drivers that we're seeing here have had to race their way in tonight, like Roper, our race leader, Brad Wright, who started on the pole. Just talked about Walsh and Johnson. They had to race their way in through knockout Q. If you're inside the top 25 in the points, you're locked into every single race during the course of either the regular season or here during the playoffs. So, it's a constant battle that's going on for the non-playoff contenders as well.
Yeah, and all these drivers are going to be putting on the best show that they can. I'm looking through, and uh, tell me if I'm wrong, but do you see Alt on the track?
I do not.
And that's massive.
Wow,
Alt
I
is
didn't
not
even
here
notice that.
I was going through and I was just, we've talked about practically every single driver. And also is Andrew, I don't know if I saw Andrew Schwartz in there either.
Yeah, Schwartz is in the field. I believe he is towards the back right now in the 35th position. He's kind of been riding around 25th to 35th most of this race, but been keeping his nose clean in that subway Ford.
So there he is running right now in 35th position is Schwartz.
But it's interesting you bring up Dylan Alt there, not in the field here tonight as a playoff contender because, the last time that we broadcasted here for FTF, it was at Road America where he went to victory lane to qualify his way into the playoffs. We've seen in playoffs, if you miss that first race of a round, it is so difficult to kind of come back in the following two races. And the bad news for Dylan Alt, his numbers are so good at road courses, but there is no road course here in this first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time, if you're going to miss a week, you're banking on the fact that you're going to win one of the next couple of races, or at least one of them. And Olt's kind of put himself in a very tricky situation. I mean, with a lot of these last chance qualifier drivers continuously coming in and really showing they have a chance to win every single week, it puts you in a hard place.
It really does. I mean, you look at the next two races that we're going to be going to, Nashville next week and then Charlotte as the first elimination race. I mean, two tracks where anything can happen. And I look at Nashville in particular. Nashville is short track, and you talk about the go or go home drivers. We've seen it a lot of the short tracks this season. A lot of go or go homers be really good at the short tracks and get that good qualifying track position.
Get a good run, and that is what Roper needed as he'll be pulling away in that 83 machine. But don't look now. You've got a lot of hungry playoff drivers behind you.
I'm going to be keeping an eye here mid-pack. We saw how Brian McCurry was able to charge his way to the front on fresher tires. The driver that's going to be doing that right now is the 75 of Ryan Doucette, making his way around drivers like Battle and McAdams. Also back there, I believe, is the 07 of Cattell, Frisch, and the 58. They're all trying to slice their way through these slower cars.
But up front, with our drivers that are in the top five, you got our pole sitter of Brad Wright. You also got Hawken, who just got by. Cozy's trying to make his way forward, but really's been stalling out on the outside. Got Kane Cook, Derek Justice in the back end of this thing. I mean, a lot of very quick drivers trying to finally make a move forward when they've been dropping back kind of.
It's incredible to watch these fresh tires back here carrying about 10 miles per hour of speed more off the corner as Doucette's already up in the top 10. He's up to 8th, closing on Brinker for 7th. That 75 is going to be up at the front of the field maybe within the next 3 laps.
You don't look now, but behind Ryan Doucette, got a lot of drivers that are quick too. Evan Rice, he's making his charge on the inside, might be making some contact with Mercurio there, as you got to be careful making these moves. They're still 3 wide behind Doucette and all of them making their charge forward.
Yeah, Mercurio was in a tough situation there. As you mentioned, Evan Rice kind of running him up the track, and then he had Austin Walsh to his outside and had to try to avoid getting up into the 37. David Shieldhouse back there. Nice comeback for the 20 after we saw his spin the infield grass. He's up to 14th, and they're 3 wide behind him.
And up front, they're 3 wide as well as Doucette on the inside on the fresher tires. He's 3 wide for 3rd place, and he's gonna make it stick under right as well for the pass for 2nd. He just passed 3 cars in 1 corner.
Brandon Hawken was on the top side of that 3 wide and may have run a little higher than he wanted to through 1 and 2. That opens up the door for Evan Rice. The inverted numbers, the 98 below the 89. That's a battle for a spot inside the top 5.
And just like that, the pass for the lead. Ryan Doucette able to get by Daniel Rope, and just like that, I mean, Mercurio did it. swiftly earlier in this run. And I think a lot of drivers will recognize it's better to have fresher tires than to stay out there.
It's going to be interesting here to see now as well, because we went back green with 54 laps, or we actually had that caution come out. The pit stops took place with 54 laps to go. We're not really sure what the fuel window is for these drivers, but I don't necessarily know if they can make it those 50 laps, because I do know that in another league race that we did at Las Vegas last night, they were able to make it about 50 to 55 laps, depending on, what the fuel situation is here with the setup. Some of these drivers might be good to make it the rest of the way.
Yeah, some of them might be good, others not so much. And that's all the drivers that decided to stay out, and leading the way of those drivers that stayed out, that's going to be the 83 machine. But Michael Frisch, here comes Butler, Shieldhouse, drivers that have been lingering at the basically around lap position 15 to 20. They finally got a chance to start moving up as contact in the back. I believe that is actually going to be the 83 behind Shieldhouse and all them getting into the wall. And don't look now, Blake Reynolds is back.
Yes, he is. He has worked his way back up now to the 7th position, getting around Kane Cook. He had a few more cars to pass than Doucette and company did, since he was so far back after that spin, bringing out our latest caution. But now he has worked his way back up into the top 10 and laying down some of the fastest lap times here.
And also the car that's in the middle of this really cluster of machines that has a fast car still is the 12 of Waterby, and he's now kind of stalled out with the cars that have fresh tires. That's with old tires. So that's interesting to see there for the 12. Moving back up to Blake Reynolds. He's now on the tail end of the top 6, and he'll be starting to make his charge past Evan Rice here shortly, most likely.
I'm trying to look here and see, even this close to the end of this race, who would be heading into Nashville next week below that cutoff line. Dylan Alt is obviously one of them, with not taking the green flag here this evening. Jake Poulin and Andrew Schwartz, they're right now back outside of the top 20. Those three for sure are going to be below the cut line. I'm not really sure who the other driver's going to be. It's a toss-up between Shieldhouse and Butler, who were separated by 2 points coming into this one, but they're both having decent runs right now, up inside the top 5 in 3rd and 4th.
With the fact that drivers are on such different sequences, drivers that have not pitted yet are in such trouble if we don't see another caution here, probably in the next 10 laps or so. Because if they have to do a green flag pit stop, that's going to put them in such a hole compared to the rest of the drivers.
I think that a number of them are in trouble anyway, because if you look at Kane Cook, he is the highest of the drivers right now that stayed out under the last caution. He's back in the 11th position. If we were to have a caution come out, there's no doubt in my mind that our top 10 ahead of him will come down pit road as well. So what Kane Cook is having happen right now, he's losing out on track position that he could very well not be able to gain back if he's on an equal footing with drivers ahead of him, should we get a late race yellow.
And Williams is going to be trying to make a pass in that 09 machine, and will do so past Kane Cook. Moving back up front, where Blake Reynolds is already up to 6th place, able to get by Evan Rice, now watching the drivers in front of him, duking it back and forth, trying to figure out who's going to be making the next pass. As that 10 machine of Minter still blinking, and that's a factor that we've already seen happen earlier in the race. Will he accidentally blink inside of another machine and spin out again?
Yeah, that's definitely a big concern, but a tremendous job to be able to keep himself up here inside the top 5. Had that great save out of turn 2, came to pit road there under the last caution, and great comebacks for 2 other drivers that are up here inside the top 10 as well. David Shieldhouse in the 20, Travis Brown in the 01, right now in 5th and 8th, because those 2, remember, got together off of turn 4 and went spinning through the infield grass, but continued to soldier on. And yeah, after a wild ride there, coming off of turn 4 around the midway point of this race, could both be destined for top 10 finishes.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like from 2nd on back to about 6th, all those drivers have had some type of comeback story of being stuck in the middle of the field, having some type of contact with someone else, and then be able to move forward. Blake Reynolds, that is a huge save that he had about 30 laps ago that he's still able to be running. Then he also brought out our 4th caution of the day, and it's now running 6th place. So overall, a great comeback for these drivers.
Not really sure what has happened to the 07 of Kettle. Remember, he was out in front for a good portion of this race, and all of a sudden, his lap times have really tapered off. He's lost touch with a good portion of the field. I'm going to go back and see if he had some kind of trouble, because this is certainly not the speed we saw of that 07 in the early portions of this race.
No, absolutely not. And it's shocking to see the difference in pace. He's running about a half second off of what our leaders are running, which is weird to see when he was the fastest car on the first half of this race.
Meanwhile, back up at the front. Oh, actually, yep, I found out what happened to the 07. He actually nearly spun out there out of turn 2. Hard to tell if there was contact between himself and Justin Malello, but the 07 was stepping out and the 53 was right there. I don't know if the 07 was starting to go around and Malello almost finished him off, or if there was contact, but it was a great save off of turn 2, but a lot of momentum and a lot of spots lost there for Kittel. And so now Kittel definitely in the camp of wanting to see a caution flag to try and get back into this thing.
Definitely want to see it. Now we're starting to see this battle for what would be 4th and 3rd place. It's Blake Reynolds able to get by Shieldhouse and trying to figure out how to get by Butler. Looks like he gets under the 35 and is there. And Sean Butler not able to carry his momentum as well as some other drivers are. You got to remember he does have a lot of damage on that right side of the 35 machine after clobbering the wall multiple times throughout the race.
I've been watching the lap times of our top 2, Ryan Doucette and Michael Frisch, and they've been near identical the last 5 times around. That last time by, 32.661 for the both of them, right down to the 1,000th of a second. And you want to know who wants this win more? It's obviously that 58. He's a playoff contender. It's an automatic ticket into the round of 8 if he goes to victory lane here tonight, but he's got to find just a little something extra to be able to chip away what's about a second lead between himself and that 75 car.
Yeah, and we've got 34 laps to go. Looking at the times and what's left, this is going to be very close for these drivers. You got to wonder who's been in saving conservation mode. It's side by side for 3rd place. Minter under fire from Blake Reynolds, and Reynolds is coming. I'm looking at his times compared. He's running about very similar to Doucette, but that's while he's battling other machines. You got to wonder what he's going to be like once he gets clear of other cars and he can finally just start running his laps.
Yeah, he's definitely got the faster car here on this long run. The question is, how much of his stuff is he using up in passing all of these machines, and how much will he have left if he is able to get up there past Frisch and eventually get to the back bumper of the 75 of Ryan Doucette. Remember, this is a comeback trail here for Blake Reynolds. Restarted back around the 28th position when we went back green because of his spin-off of turn 2, bringing out the latest yellow.
And now to 3rd place, and we'll see what type of lap times this 3 machine can put down, as lap traffic might be a factor here as the longer we go on, re-looking at where our drivers are at. I don't think they actually will be after re-looking where drivers are at. Lap traffic most likely will not be an issue.
Just to update as well, we have had 2 more drivers go back to the garage area. Daniel Roper, who we saw up inside the top 5 for a good portion of the early stages of this race, he is currently out of the event. Same for the 25 of Will Norton, so they'll finish 39th and 40th. We got a car hitting pit road here. That's the 30 of Brad Wright, and I do believe this is a regularly scheduled stop for the pole sitter.
Yeah, he was part of the crew. Is yellow flag being thrown, and we're looking to see where exactly it is.
55, Kane Cook.
Oh, no, one of our playoff contenders, someone was running up front, and one of the drivers that was on those older tires. And he had a little bit of help.
Yes, he did. Justin Malello in the 53. Well, actually, no. He actually went around on his own off of turn 4, and Malello actually spun out behind him trying to get on the brakes. There actually wasn't any contact between either one of them. I thought maybe Kane Cook was thinking about coming to pit road since I saw his car kind of stalled down there on the inside line, but no, that car just got loose. And let's remember, he was one of those drivers out there on those really old tires.
Yeah, he was on 40 lap old tires, and that is a lot of laps to be on. As now we're going to take a little bit of a cockpit view here of what Malello got to see as Kane Cook gets a little out of shape.
It's interesting, too, because Kane Cook, that car snapped around on him right in the middle of the corner. A lot of drivers have been having difficulty with their cars drifting up out of the groove, whether it be off of turn 2 or turn 4 on the older tires. So that just shows how worn those rear tires were, that in maybe the grippiest part of the racetrack there, that middle line, that 55 just snapped around.
And we stayed on board on this replay to watch Justin Malello because he drove right through all the grass, which thanks for being a lawnmower here at Las Vegas, but that is some damage that is going to be on that machine suspension, spoiler wise. That is not the safest route of how to get your car off the track.
Yeah, definitely not. I think what he was originally trying to do was maybe try and get his car down to pit road, but then with the fact that pit road was closed, didn't want to run the risk of getting a penalty, so he turned back to the right to avoid the commitment cone, and unfortunately, the only thing that was left there was grass.
Well, you talked about how Blake Reynolds tried something different. How about the 4 drivers that decided to stay out here? This is a shocker to see.
This is very interesting, and I'm not necessarily certain that this is going to be a strategy that they're going to stick to. Alan Balancino in the 70, Benjamin Fanning in the 52. I think that we're going to probably see them on pit road here this next time around. I'm not certain about that 07 of Brandon Cattell, because remember, he ended up having that save off of turn 2 that mired him back in the pack. He's had a fast car here tonight, but I don't know if he's got a fast enough car to hold off drivers on 25 lap fresher tires. And for Andrew Schwartz, I just don't see this as a strategy of him staying out here as well on old tires in the 4th position.
Could have been a strategy to stay out, get some bonus points possibly for these drivers. And I think that might be what Schwartz was thinking about. Just did not work out the way he wanted, as the 70, the 52, and the 07 still stay out.
This is interesting. Maybe they feel they have the nothing to lose strategy. Maybe they're banking on the fact now that we're going to be going back green with less than 30 laps to go, that track position is more important than tires, because you may end up having some quick yellows here in the closing stages of this race. But man, I mean, just based on what we've seen with 10 lap fresher tires, I just don't see how this is a race winning strategy for any of these drivers.
Well, we're going to stay on board as we go side by side. When we come back, it is going to be less than 30 laps to go here for the FTF Grand National Series.
Since the VFW was founded, their mission was really to look out for the veterans community, to make sure that our nation upholds its promise to really care for the service member, the veteran, and his or her family. There are several ways that the VFW fights for veterans today. The top services include disability claims assistance, advocacy on Capitol Hill and with the Department of Veterans Affairs. We also offer scholarship opportunities, and then also volunteerism. For me personally, when I came back from Iraq, my life experience was drastically different from those around me, and the Veterans of Foreign Wars really spoke to me. The reason I would encourage veterans who have served overseas today to join the VFW is because this is your organization. The VFW is for veterans. Every generation, a new generation of leaders steps up in the Veterans of Foreign Wars and fights for the veterans community.
Veterans of Foreign Wars. No one does more for veterans. For more information on the VFW, go to ahctv.com/sacrifice.
And we are back to the FTF Grand National Series playoff time. We are at first race of the first round of playoffs. And Seth, it has been a wild one.
It has been a wild one. Las Vegas is certainly putting its part into who's going to be advancing into that round of 8. Right now, out of our 12 playoff contenders, we've only got 4 of them up inside of the top 10. All the rest kind of intermingled all the way through the top 25. And 3 drivers staying out on over 25 lap old tires here in this restart with less than 30 to go. I think this is going to be really crazy.
It's going to be wild. I feel like we're going to go 3 wide. Ryan Doucette might be that driver to do it, as he'll be second in line on the top side. He's getting jacked up. A lot of cars are all jacked up, and there's still 3 wide. They haven't even crossed the line.
And they're going to continue 3 wide down here into turn 1. 2 rows, almost 3 rows deep back there from about the 4th position on back. We're 4 wide through turn 2. Oh, Doucette got clipped by, I think it was Butler. Caution's going to come out. A lot of cars going to get collected up in this one.
They're scattering all over the place. And looking back, I mean, how many cars really, was that just an admin called caution?
I'm not sure if it was or not. The one thing I'm looking at here, it doesn't really look like, I said it was going to be a big wreck. I think for the most part, just about everybody saved it, which is incredible. But that 75 was dead sideways in front of the field. I believe that was an in-game called caution.
Yeah, I mean, there was a possible chance of it being terrible up here. I mean, the best way to look at this is from an airborne look because of how many cars were scattered everywhere as we're going to be entering corner number 1. And it's wild to see. I mean, you saw the difference, and that looked like a netcode incident there between Butler and Doucette that brought that out.
I think there definitely was some net code there between those two, but I mean, with that fanned out view you're looking at, folks, I mean, look at the saves here. Butler rights the 75 car back around. The 52 nearly got spun by the 12. There were a lot of drivers that very well should have been spun around or stacked up, and how we got through there with all drivers facing straight down the back straightaway, with that happening so close to the front of the field, I will never know.
I honestly don't know either. Looking at it, Butler did just clip Doucette, and that's what spun him around. But with the sense that we have cars now with this caution, some of those guys that were up front with the older tires might think it's time to pit.
Yeah, absolutely. Ballacino, Cattell, they were drivers that stayed out along with Benjamin Fanning. So opportunity for them to come down pit lane, and it'll actually have them about, 5-6 fresher tires than everybody else if they actually decide to come down pit lane. But it looks like that 70 car is actually deciding to continue to stay out yet again.
And Michael Frisch was the machine that was making the move through the middle pack. And I'm not surprised. I mean, he was someone that looked quick, was coming. Doucette was another driver that was trying to follow suit with the 58, but that little bit of a clip between Butler and the 75, that's what brought out caution number 6.
I know that this is obviously way too early to be calling a winner, but I love the situation Michael Frisch is in right now because he's out there with the fresher tires. He's got 2 drivers behind him that'll be able to kind of be a blockade, and Cattell and Balancino if they both decide to actually stay out. And then you look back there, and there's drivers that are obviously having great runs, but I haven't really seen them have quite the same speed as Frisch. I'd have to look all the way back to maybe 13th place before we see Mercurio and Michael Cozy Jr. Blake Reynolds is a long ways back in 31st. So, I mean, this might be Michael Frisch's race to lose, depending on what happens here in these final 20 laps or so.
I mean, possibly, but I mean, you also got to throw in the 10 and the 20. I mean, that Shieldhouse and Minter, both of them have been running up front. And yes, they haven't had faster pace than Frisch, but they're still been able to stick with the 58 during these runs. So they're still someone to watch out for. And when we come later into this run, it's all about not really saving, but just going with these final 20 laps that we're coming up to.
And to your point, with what we just saw there, the contact between Doucette and Butler, that was a battle for the 4th position. So it just proves that nobody is safe here in the field, no matter if you're starting 1st or 31st.
Still not, I mean, I would like to say I'm surprised, but we've seen it all race long. 3 wide action everywhere, kind of feeling like we're at Auto Club at some points when we see 4 or 5 wide with those drivers on that last caution. Everyone's trying to figure out where they're going to be playing, where they're going to be safe. And honestly, you're not really safe anywhere unless you're in the lead about a second away from everyone else.
You know, it's actually pretty cool, too, here, just on a personal note. I mean, you've got Michael Frisch out in front. You can see that 58 Toyota Supra sponsored by Bar Visuals. Of course, the owner, Dalen Barr, is actually sponsoring tonight's event, as well as the first 4 races of the playoffs. And so how cool would it be to have a race that is sponsored by Dalen Barr, to have one of the cars that are sponsoring his company go to victory lane here tonight in Las Vegas?
That would be awesome to see. I mean, Bar Visuals, I mean, they put out some of the best work out there. Check them out for best graphics to be seen. And Bar Visuals, always great to see whenever they're able to sponsor these races.
So this is going to be an interesting restart to see what drivers like Evan Rice, Tucker Minter, David Shieldhouse are going to do, because there's going to be a wall in front of them with the older tires of the 07 and the 70. I'm expecting Michael Frisch to get a big jump here, and it's really all going to depend on how quickly drivers from fourth on back are going to be able to clear these drivers on older tires as to whether or not Frisch is going to have a battle on his hands or not.
Frisch is going to try every move he can, just get away. And here's the thing, I don't even think we're done with our last caution of the night. With the way that we've been seeing everyone be so aggressive here at the end, we were already seeing quite aggressive racing just from lap number 1, and it's just been ramping up ever since then. I doubt that we're even done having 2 cautions to the end of this race.
It's incredible that this is an FTF Grand National Series race, because we've talked about Blake Reynolds, but we haven't talked that much about Derek Justice. He's quietly up here just outside of the top 10, going to be restarting the 11th position, so you got to wonder what he's been holding back.
That wall you were talking about, it's right there. The 07 and the 70 is already blocked off Evan Rice. And there goes Michael Frisch. He is already gone, almost up to a half a second lead. And it's just going to grow as they're 3 wide for second place.
Evan Rice deciding to go where they ain't. He took the 3rd lane around Balancino and Kettle. Now David Shieldhouse swapping from the inside to the high side. He's going to try to do the same along with Tucker Minter. But they're having a little bit of difficulty getting around that 07.
And they're struggling so much on that high side. And oh no, a little bit of blinking. Got to be careful around there, especially when drivers are trying so hard to get going. Right now, looking at the gap between our leader and second place, Evan Rice is trying his best, but it's about over a half a second gap.
Balancino on that last time around on the front straightaway saying thank you to that runoff apron area. He was able to get down there, and a lot of drivers getting around him, and now doing the same there on the back straightaway. As up at the front, though, David Shieldhouse, we talked about how Michael Frisch wants to go to victory lane to advance into the playoffs. Well, David Shieldhouse wants to go to victory lane not only to advance into the round of 8, but also to get his first win of the season. So far, it's a 0 in the win column for that 20.
Shieldhouse running 3rd. We were just watching all of the chaos. There's more chaos spinning in the back. Oh no. We got cars upside down. Oh, that is... Oh, Butler's involved.
Butler? That is Butler in the 35. McAdams was in it. I believe Noah Carmichael was involved.
I'm trying to figure out where exactly this all started, because the car just shot. That was McAdams that it all started with. And you'll see, coming through the tri-oval, McAdams gets tapped, and he just goes for a ride where he has 0 control, comes back up, makes contact with, I believe that was the 49, and Butler nowhere to go. And even if you're holding the brakes in that situation, that is rough.
Trying to figure out who it was that actually got into him, that sent him down towards that inside wall, and I think it might possibly have been... Trying to figure out who it was.
As we're continuing to figure this out, that's just a hard lick for a lot of quick drivers.
And I believe it was, yes, it was the 73 car, which actually, no, well, it's the 73 on his car, but it's the 2 on ours. It's Jonathan Palmieri that actually kind of forced Kevin McAdams down the racetrack and kind of caused this wreck.
I don't think it was Palmieri. I think that was someone else.
It's hard to tell if they're even really... Well, yeah, there was contact between the two. It was slight, but it was certainly enough to send that 26 down to the inside. And unfortunately, at these type of tracks, when a car darts down the inside that late going into a corner, there's just not enough time to scrub off speed, and it's coming back up the track.
Yeah, there really isn't. And we'll continue trying to update on exactly what started that accident. But man, probably their biggest wreck of the night. That just McAdams had nowhere to go with that one after being just shoved out of the racing line.
And it's the biggest hit, really, in terms of our playoff contenders as well. I mean, there have been some that have had some bumps and scrapes along the way, but they've been able to kind of come back from that. there's going to be very little chance of coming back for Sean Butler, who came into this race below the cut line. So he is going to have some heavy work to do at Nashville and Charlotte in the next 2 weeks to advance into the round of 8.
Yeah, and those are some of the most demoralizing hits to get when you are running up. You're running up front. You're doing well. Get shuffled to the back, and then you get caught up in someone else's accident, and it's not even your fault. You just had nowhere to go, and those cautions or those wrecks are the ones that you're going to just be a little frustrated about moving forward.
Yeah, same deal there for Noah Carmichael, had nowhere to go as well. And again, you really can't fault Kevin McAdams because by the time that car is shooting off to the left, he's just a passenger.
I do want to say, if you've been hearing barking, that is my dog that's deciding it is time to just bark his head off. So if you've been hearing that all race long, I am so sorry for that. But hopefully you enjoy, as he's a puppy that doesn't know when it's time to be quiet when I'm commentating.
You dog lovers out there, give us a hashtag woof in the chat.
Well, we are inching closer and closer to the end of this race in the FTF Grand National Series. And, Seth, it's Las Vegas. It's a great race just to watch as we've been seeing all this amazing action. But also, it's been a fantastic race to see just for these playoff drivers because a lot of them have been able to be up front. At least half of them have been able to stay up front. The other half, they've been struggling to get up there.
Well, the interesting thing, too, is, it's kind of flip-flopped. We had about 5-6 drivers that were up at the front in the early stages and another 6 that were struggling. Now it's kind of like those 6 drivers that were struggling, now they're up towards the front, and some of the guys that we had up in the top 10 early, they're now back outside of the top 10, top 15. I mean, a couple of them are making some comebacks here. Brandon Hawkins now up to the 11th position. Michael Cozy Jr.'s worked his way back up to 9th, but these guys have had to kind of claw their way up here since the halfway point of this race to get themselves back at least into a decent position to get the maximum points possible heading into Nashville.
Always close your eyes after a caution and realize where drivers are at. This is wild to look. Look who's in the top 10. You've got Brandon Hawkins. You've got Mercurio, who's come back out of nowhere. You also got Weatherworth, who was stuck in the back for a second, and he was on the same strategy as Blake Reynolds, and somehow has found himself in the top 10.
Yeah, a lot of drivers with some comebacks here. How about Ryan Williams? Remember when we had that tremendous save that Blake Reynolds had off of turn 4? Ryan Williams nearly had his nose taken off in that, but because of the awareness of being able to back off and let the 3 gather it up, he's now up here inside of the top 10.
So many drivers that we've just seen have some weird races. I mean, Travis Brown, he was part of some issues as well during this race. Just everyone up front seems like they've had some type of incident that has happened to them during this race, yet have found themselves in the top 10.
But it's not over yet.
Absolutely not. And like I said, we weren't done after one caution. I'll be surprised if we can somehow make it to the end, but there's only one way to find out. When the pace car lights are off, there goes the pace truck. It's time to go green here at Las Vegas.
Michael Frisch with another great restart there, about 2 car lengths before you get to the start-finish line. Evan Rice now trying to hold off David Shieldhouse. You've got Shieldhouse and Kane Cook back here. They're gunning for that 58 because that's a guaranteed playoff spot if Frisch is able to close out the deal.
And Frisch is going to continue to just try to pull away the best that he can as they're staying side by side for second. And this is what the 58 likes to see. Continue this route. Stay side by side. Use up your stuff as cars behind him as well are getting a little bit racy there, as that's Mercurio as well as Cozy.
Yeah, and they're back to 3 wide racing in the middle of the pack. Cosmonish and No Shoe back there, along with Ryan Doucette and Tristan Hagenstein. You know that Doucette is on the comeback trail as he had that great save out of turn 2, but lost a lot of track position. He's been up front for a good portion of this race as well, and now mired outside of the top 15.
I'm trying to see who that was. I believe that was Ryan Williams that got a little out of shape, able to save that machine and keep moving forward. As a car that I'm surprised to see brought out our caution number 6, I believe. That was Kane Cook, who's now challenging for second place. Here comes the 55 machine.
Kane Cook, who's been to victory lane twice this season. Season opener at Daytona, and I actually went back to look. His second win was at a short track at Iowa, and now trying to look for his 3rd win of the season. Kane Cook, one of the drivers in the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, and definitely has been making a name for himself here as well in the FTF Grand National Series.
Yeah, we got a couple of drivers that are in the Coca-Cola series that are just always up here running and putting on a show every single week.
Now I'm looking here at the three of Blake Reynolds, who again was a driver that was kind of caught out on his strategy, dropped way to the back on older tires on the last green flag run. He's been able to work his way up to 18th, but we're closing on 10 laps to go. I'm just not sure it's enough time for him to be able to get back up to the front without the aid of maybe another caution.
Right now, Blake Reynolds is hoping that we have a caution that comes out and everyone in front of him stays out on those old tires so he can have fresh ones to try to cut his way through the field, but it's just not looking great for himself. Another driver that's trying to cut his way through, that's Derek Justice, who's running 15th at the moment.
How about Brian Mercurio, that bright green number 41? We saw him play some strategy early on. It worked out for the short run, but not for the long run. Now he's back up here in the vicinity and maybe looking 3 wide here with Shieldhouse and Minter.
Minter is the one driver I think up here that I'm slightly nervous about. We've seen him blink throughout the whole entire race, and with how close everyone's running, one blink could take out most of these drivers.
No, think happy thoughts. Let's not have that happen, because there's too many playoff contenders right here. You got the 20, the 99, the 41, and the 89. They can't afford that to happen.
He's surrounded by playoff drivers. As moving up front, you've got Frisch, who's being ran down by Kane Cook. Kane Cook in the 55 machine is coming as we're coming to lap number 8.
And Kane Cook, despite being back in the dirty air of the 58, it has not affected him at all. He has been about a 10th quicker every single lap since we went back green. And where is Frisch going to be able to throw the block is the question, because one thing we've seen here tonight, that seems like every lane is viable to these drivers. Most drivers run that middle line to inside through the center, but that third and second lane have definitely been options for some of these drivers.
Yeah, and the longer these guys go on, the more you got to start thinking, maybe you got to find a different lane. And I don't think Frisch has really figured out that Kane Cook has been drifting up and using more of the middle lane than everywhere else. So he's able to carry more momentum off the corners, and that's where he's gaining time.
Middle of the pack. Tucker Minter has spun around. Evan Brinker's involved. Big hits here on the front straightaway.
Oh, no. Even more cars.
That was Malello I saw. Man.
That is, well, you know, I did say that we were probably going to have another caution.
Add another playoff contender to the list that have had problems tonight. Derek Justice in the 31 was collected.
It looked like there was slight contact between the 10 and the 12. Got the 10 a little out of shape, and when he came back down, got into Brown, and from there, just carnage everywhere.
It's a horrible place to have a wreck here on the front straightaway, because there's so many possibilities for cars to dart up and dart down. You just have no idea if the lane you choose is going to have a car in it by the time you get to the wreck.
Just coming out of the corner, it's just contact made. Brinker, oh, Justice, just hard contact for him into the outside wall.
Kazbinish was involved in that one, and I'm telling you what, the hit for Derek Justice was a pretty good one. He tried to shoot the gap between Evan Brinker and the outside wall, trying to avoid as well the spinning 0-1 of Travis Brown, and it just wasn't in time.
And then just the more you look at it, the more you're just wondering who else was involved in this thing. Is you see Derek Justice, he tries to stick it, just couldn't find the space, and gets hit again. Our pole sitter, right, he was involved in that one as well.
Ryan Williams got a piece of it in the 28, pretty good with the right front. Already mentioned Evan Brinker. Looks like the 54 of Austin Jackson was involved.
Well, I threw out the thought of, if a caution comes out, you know, Reynolds might be wanting this, so to see a lot of cars in front of him stay out, and that's what he got. A ton of machines staying out. The first car into the pits and to come out is going to be the 3 of Blake Reynolds. And I would say the 3's got a pretty good shot here, even though we're coming closer and closer to the possible chance of a green-white checkered.
Yeah, I mean, it's all going to come down to maybe going to the Brian Mercurio school of methodically working your way through the field if you're Blake Reynolds, because we saw Mercurio work his way from outside the top 30 up to the race lead, and I think it was about 6 laps. The problem is, though, when we go back green, we're probably going to be around 2 laps to go. Yes, we do have the possibility of some overtime green-white checkers, but I just think he's still too far back for it really to enough time for him to work his way from where he currently is positioned, which is 21st, up to the race lead.
Well, Seth, I mean, there's also the thoughts of drivers that have made some pit stops between these cautions. And, drivers that we always talk about, they start in the back, they linger there. Andrew Schwartz, out of nowhere in our top 10.
I was just noticing him. He actually used the grass to get through that wreck on the front straightaway and reaped a lot of positions as a result.
Also, the 07 is going to be up here. Both those drivers are going to be on about 7 to 10 lap fresher tires than the rest of the field out here. Blake Reynolds will be on the freshest of tires, but he'll be back in 17th place. So we'll see if the 3 has what it had. He's going to have to go 3 wide against almost everyone, every corner. And I still don't think there's enough time for him to get up front unless we have another green-white checkered.
It's incredible how, the old adage, the cream rises to the top. I mean, look who we've got up here inside the top 10 now in terms of playoff drivers. First place, Frisch. Second place, Cook. 4th is Hawken. 5th is Shieldhouse. 6th is Mercurio. 7th is Cozy. And 10th is Andrew Schwartz. 7 drivers up here inside of the top 10, closing in on the final few laps of this race.
Jake Poulin, if you're wondering where he's at, he's back in 24th place. 23rd, 24th back there. So he was not able to make the move forward, but he did pit. So there is a chance that he could be gaining some time on these older guys on older tires. But he's got to get by a lot of other machines that are doing the same strat he is doing. Also, a lot of machines with heavy damage. We'll see how they can make any moves forward. I think Blake Reynolds is the one driver that has a chance. We've seen other drivers cut through the field in 2 laps and be up front. Can we see the 3 car do it?
And drivers that Las Vegas has not been their friends. If you're wondering where some of these other playoff drivers are, Sean Butler, he is still running. Well, actually, he's still on pit road getting repairs done. He's in the 35th position. And Derek Justice has just come down pit road again, getting more repairs done. But he's a lap down in the 29th position. So for Justice, maybe not as much of a critical situation going into Nashville based off all the playoff points he was able to accumulate during the regular season. But certainly in terms of momentum, definitely want to get things turned around next week.
Yeah, and I always throw out in every series that we do, it seems like every round there's a wild card race, and Nashville kind of looking like it. All short tracks, it's a lot of skill to be up front, but a ton of luck to survive to be at the end.
Well, not only that, but we've seen drivers having to deal with lap traffic here tonight. Boy, are they going to have to deal with slower traffic at Nashville next week.
And here we go. Pace car lights are off. Looking like it's going to be an in-race green-white checker.
It is, so Michael Frisch going to hope and pray that they maybe can get around to the white flag here without having to do it again under overtime conditions.
Frisch able to get going. It's going to be Evan Rice going to be holding on the inside. Can he hold off Kane Cook? Because Kane Cook was coming. He had a chance to get by for the lead, but just not there yet.
Look at Brandon Hawken. He's going to move to second place inside of Evan Rice. Cook's going to look 3 wide. They're 3 wide further back as well.
If they're further back, they're really making some other moves, as that's going to be the 07 who's on fresher tires than everyone else. But coming around the corner, it's going to be Michael Frisch on the white flag leading this lap.
No caution as the 58 hits the line. 4 more corners, 1.5 miles, and about 3 car lengths back to Brandon Hawken. Michael Frisch, a 2-time winner in the regular season, might be the first one to advance into the round of 8.
He's rocking the bar visuals, and he's going to be trying to get the win. He's just going to survive 2 more corners, and Hawken, he isn't close enough. It's going to be Frisch.
How about Michael Frisch? Fought his way to the front, never looked back, and he's going to capture the win tonight at Las Vegas. What a strategy call. What a couple of great restarts for the 58.
Frisch gets first, Brandon Hawken gets second, Kane Cook third, Evan Rice fourth, and Mercurio somehow able to survive and get a 5th place finish.
A lot of different drivers with varying strategies here tonight up inside of that top 5, and a couple of them looked like they might have been out of it in the early stages, but boy, Michael Frisch, I'll tell you what, like we said, he really kind of turned the heat up during the second half of the regular season, going to victory lane twice. I mean, what a way to start out the playoffs, going into Nashville, going into Charlotte, not having to worry, knowing you're going to be advancing into the next round.
Yeah, the one driver now that could take a deep breath and feel secure about going to the next round, it's Michael Frisch. And, looking at other drivers that had really solid finishes here at the end, Ryan Doucette, who was caught up in that late accident, he was able to find himself up to 6th place. And Reynolds was only able to find himself up to 12th place after starting back in 17th.
Yeah, but definitely, a good run nonetheless, though, for Blake Reynolds, who had to work his way from the back to the front about 2 or 3 times, just based off of being on a different strategy with most of the field. And as I said, I mean, his points position with the playoff points he got during the regular season, he could afford a run like this. And even still, a 12th place run, I think, is already going to solidify himself a spot to point his way into the round of 8.
Well, we just saw where drivers finished out this race. I talked about our top 5, and Seth, I mean, the rest of the top 10, still a lot of drivers that are in the playoffs, and we're looking for decent finishes. I still think the surprise finish up front has to be Schwartz.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think Schwartz was kind of doing what Andrew Schwartz does, right at the back, right at the midway portion of this field for a majority of this race, which looked like the scariest place to be during the course of this 134 lapper, but avoiding that huge wreck there near the end, sneaking his way by, getting that top 10 run. This is a huge performance here for Andrew Schwartz, just based on the fact he was one of the 4 drivers coming into this race below the cut line, and a lot of other drivers that were down there with him struggled this evening.
And here's 11th through 20th, and looking at some of these drivers, I mean, you got Reynolds up in here, and other drivers that had a lot of chaos throughout the night. I feel like really it was 11th through about 30th where they were constantly in battle, side by side, 3 wide action. They were constantly at each other's throats, and it was amazing action to watch.
Yeah, certainly the area of the track that had my adrenaline pumping, because you're right, a lot of not much room being given, a lot of 3 wide action, and a lot of really good racing too, in terms that I thought for sure we were going to have a couple of cautions take place just based on contact I was seeing, and they were able to keep it straight. But we go a little bit further down here on the list, and it's still early to say that drivers are in trouble, but Jake Poulin, he really needed a much better run than he got here tonight, since he was last of the 12 playoff contenders coming into this one, finishing in the 22nd position. And Derek Justice, I mean, yes, he's in a good position still as far as his playoff points, but for a car that was kind of riding most of this race from 10th to 15th, he was just trying to survive, and unfortunately he wasn't successful.
Luck not on the side of the 31 machine, and also not luck on the side of Butler. Sean Butler, who we saw was a top 3 contender at the start of this race, and then just mistakes started to pile up, and finally got costed him, was being caught up in an incident that wasn't even his fault.
Absolutely. That's the thing about Las Vegas too. The track is just so narrow with the corners that a space that looks like it's going to open up for you to be able to get through just closes up immediately. And just down here at the bottom of our standings, a lot of innocent victims caught up in some of these wrecks here tonight.
Well, after seeing our results here, Seth, it's time to take a look and see if we've got our interviews at the ready, if we've got drivers ready for some interviews.
Yeah, right now it's looking like we do not have our 3rd place finisher, Kane Cook, nor our 2nd place finisher, Brandon Hawken. I don't actually even see our race winner either.
If you scroll up, I believe they're up there.
Oh, yes, there they are. Yep, I wasn't looking far enough up. So why don't we get our 3rd place finisher in here then? And we've got Kane Cook here, 3rd place finisher. Kane, you got us?
Yeah.
Well, my goodness, I mean, it looked like it was an absolute hornet's nest out there for drivers that were either at the front or in the middle of the pack or even at the back. And you seem to be in all three places during the course of this race. I mean, how difficult was it fighting your way through traffic?
Honestly, I mean, I came from 30th, like 34th or 33rd or something. And when the first caution came out, I felt like I was 10 laps away from being in the lead of the cars that were on the same tires as me. So the setup was amazing. It was a very, very raceable package. Like the first time I've had a car handle the way I wanted to, and like old school iRacing in a long time. Took a lot of wheeling and throttle control, which we haven't seen in a couple of years. And I don't know, just really unfortunate that after about lap 80, we never got a chance to race heads up. And I don't know, I'm pretty upset with the way that race went, to have just something that good and just have, I don't know what going on in the field, so that way we can't race it.
Well, we definitely saw there near the end, just before that final caution came out, you were reeling in that 58 car. If you had caught him, did you have a strategy on how to get around him?
I mean, pretty much everything was working in 3 and 4. I was out arcing him and getting runs. And his line in 1 and 2, I don't know, he was cutting the bumps and was slowing him down. So there was a very realistic chance of me hanging his right rear. I couldn't tell if it was going to die or not, though. I'm sure you guys saw the left rear damage I had. Trying to make up for it. I was surprised I was able to even catch him. I mean, usually, especially rear end damage, you get anything in the B car and you're just off. There's nothing you can do about it. But I mean, that part of it was fun. I did have a lot of fun tonight in spots, but I don't know, I'm just tired of these FTF races just getting ruined by stuff that, I don't know, just shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, I mean, Kane, you guys were racing all over the place, and it was wild to see how everyone was racing so competitively throughout the whole entire field. But what looked like the biggest thing out there was tire strategy and people being on such offset of tires. At any point, did you feel like it was better to come into the pits than stay out?
I mean, early on in the races, when you save your tires a little bit and everybody's sheepish to come in and just play the straight up lottery game. Tire strategy is kind of fun because it keeps people on the same set, keeps people accountable for how they drive their cars. But I mean, at the end of these races, I mean, look, you can look at the race we had, or not the race we had tonight, the race that the Real Xfinity Series had tonight. Harrison Burton's out there staying out on old tires, and he's pretty competitive. I mean, we have a 3-lap tire difference here, and it turns into a damn IMSA race. So I don't know. I personally, certain situations, it's great if it keeps people accountable for the way their cars drive, but I mean, most of the time it's just, late race cautions, or you get a lap 20 caution, and it just turns the whole thing into a lottery. It takes all the driver out of it, all the skill out of it. It's just blind luck. Are people going to be bad? Are they going to just do stuff for no reason and wreck for absolutely no reason just because, especially if it's helping their strategy? Or is everybody going to somehow have a brain and we're going to actually get a race? That's all you're betting on. One way is either you finish last or first, and the other way, you just hope that people aren't absolutely trash. So I don't really think that's much strategy.
Well, Kane, obviously, a great run for you here tonight in third place. So you've got yourself in a pretty good point situation going into Nashville. But I mean, one of your 2 wins this season did come at a shorter track at Iowa. So what's the mindset heading towards Nashville here, the middle race of this first round?
No, I just can't wait for someone to stay out on old tires midway through the race and wreck the front of the field like half the races this year. It's just what I'm looking forward to. Damn near happening this race too. I would like to thank everybody at FTF though for putting together that was a great car tonight for us all to race. Great track conditions. Thank you guys for doing the broadcast. Like, there was a lot going on great tonight, but I don't know. I'm just fed up, so I expect the same shenanigans next week.
Well, that's Kane Cook. He brings it home P3 here tonight at Las Vegas. Congrats on a great run, and of course, good luck here for the remainder of this first round of the playoffs.
Hey, thank you, man. Hopefully your next couple interviews are a little more happy.
And let's see if we can now get second place finisher Brandon Hawken. Hey, Brandon, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Going great. Man, you were so close to being able to pull off that victory there. But, I mean, what little more did you need? Was it laps? Was it speed? Was it clean air? What?
not sure what it was, but I'm just really happy to finish where I did because yeah, I've struggled a bit on the oval side, so yeah, to get a second place, that's really big accomplishment for me, and but yeah, maybe if I had a couple more laps, I might have been able to get Frisch, but yeah, overall it was just a great race. Really happy with second.
We saw drivers be able to just cut their way through the field if they had the fresher tires, but with so many different drivers on so many different sequences, it seemed like if you were in the back of the pack on equal tires to drivers in front of you, it was even tougher to be able to work your way back up to the front of the field. And we saw you actually back there, might around 20th position. I mean, was it that wreck that took place there out of turn 4 on the front straightaway that helped you pick up those spots, or were you able to find something late to be able to get yourself back up there into the top 5?
Yeah, I think I made a really bad decision there, with a couple I forget how many laps there were left, but, yeah, everybody came in. I chose to save the set of tires, and on old tires, like, some of the guys that stayed out with me, they were a lot faster than I was. I was just really bad, so, when I had that opportunity to come back in and get tires, I, took that, and then it was just trying to choose the right lines, try to take advantage of people going side by side and everything. And yeah, it just worked out really well. Yeah, just lucky, nothing bad happened, and yeah, pull off a good finish.
Yeah, I mean, Brandon, we were watching guys go 3, 4, and almost 5 wide at times. How was it on your end trying to cut through the field like it was?
Pretty nuts. Yeah, like yeah, nobody really gives an inch, and I didn't either. We were all racing really hard. Yeah, I think there was one point where we were 3 wide for at least like 3 or 4 laps or something. It was it was pretty crazy. So yeah, it was pretty exciting on my end, and I know a lot of other people too. There's definitely a lot of action, no shortage of that.
Well, Brandon, obviously, coming into this race, a multi-time winner, you didn't really have the benefit of being able to rack up a lot of playoff points during the regular season since you ran a rather limited schedule. And so with that being said, I mean, a second place run here tonight puts you up there ahead of the cut line heading into Nashville. What's the mindset going into the short track?
It's just gonna be like I'm just gonna try and keep it clean. I won't try anything too crazy. I just yeah, the goal is to make it into the next round. That'd be really cool because like yeah, like oval isn't quite my strong suit, so I'm just trying to get better at that and to make it to the next round. That would be pretty cool. So yeah, I'm just gonna try and just try and keep it clean, not do anything stupid, and yeah, see where it falls from there.
Well, you definitely kept it clean here tonight and reap a second place finish as a reward out of it. We're going to let you do some shout outs now, Brandon.
Yeah, shout out like everybody at FTF, you guys in the broadcast booth. Frisch on the win. That was a really good win for him. And yeah, just everybody we raced against tonight. It was a really, really fun time. And yeah, looking forward to next week.
That's Brandon Hawkins, second place here tonight at Las Vegas. Again, congrats on a great run, and we look forward to seeing what you can do here for the remainder of this first round of the playoffs.
Thank you guys. Hopefully we can talk to you next week.
And let's go down to Victory Lane, where Michael Frisch is standing by. Hey, Michael, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
I got you loud and clear.
Well, I mean, man, what a second half of the season it's been for you. You get your first win to lock yourself into the playoffs at Lucas Oil. You follow it up in a nail biter at Daytona. And here tonight, first playoff race, and you've locked yourself into the round of 8. I mean, out of the 3 wins, does this one rank the highest for you?
Oh yeah, for sure. This is just momentum game right into round 2. This was not coming tonight out of me. I did not expect it at all. I had no practice on Vegas this week. I know all these guys have been running official races like A, B, and C throughout the week. I came in tonight, just ran my race, and I was pretty quick on the long run. So we just kind of hang with Kane there, and we sailed off into the sunset.
We talked with Kane Cook here just moments ago and asked him, if he was able to get up to your back bumper just prior to that last caution, what options he had open to him. With you as the race leader, what options did you have to be able to take away his line?
I knew he was coming, but honestly, the only thing I could do was probably run the middle and try to pinch him down low and just try to get him loose down there because he had 3 and 4 hooked better than me. I was always loose out and he was always getting the runs. And if he tried to go high in 3 and 4 one time, I think he might have would have had me because I was just fighting the car out of 4.
Yeah, I mean, Michael, we saw you in the middle of the field most of this race, and for the first half, I mean, how was it trying to avoid all of the cars that were around you after you being 3, 4 wide at times?
It's scary. My heart stopped one time on one restart. I took it Larson the wall and just rode it, and before I knew it, we're 4 wide coming out of turn 4, and I'm like, I'm not doing this again. So we kind of just tried to pick our moves safe and securely, and not try to burn up our tires at the same time.
With this win, Michael, you are the only driver that's going to be heading into Nashville and Charlotte, knowing that you are already locked into the next round. So obviously you've got a sigh of relief there, but what's the mindset now heading into the final 2 races here of this first round of the playoffs?
Just try not to make any enemies and just try to make some friends and just run consistent laps. That's all I want. And we'll come focus round 2.
Well, you had a win at a short track, a win at a super speedway. Tonight, a mile and a half here as Michael Frisch takes the checkered flag at Las Vegas. Michael, we're going to let you do some shout-outs now.
Oh, I just want to shout out Brian, first of all. He's one of my guys who I've known for a long time in the sim racing. And he finally made his road to pro. I think he finished 8th. I just big shout out to him. He's going to be going into the pro series. So big shout out to him. Best of luck to him. And then I want to shout out Bar Visuals, Dalen Barr, who goes to the track each week, taking awesome photos for us and putting them on Twitter. And FTF for putting on this amazing league.
Well, Michael Frisch going to be able to sleep soundly here tonight, knowing he is locked into the round of 8 in 3 weeks' time, taking the checkers here tonight at Las Vegas. Congrats on a well-deserved win there, a crazy finish here at the end, and good luck here in the upcoming weeks.
Thanks, Seth.
So that is going to conclude the coverage here tonight from Las Vegas. And I mean, Sam, it's hard to be able to put into words what kind of a race we saw because, when we think Las Vegas, yes, we definitely think multi-groove, but do we really think 3 wide several rows deep or 4 wide situations?
No, honestly, come to Vegas, I'm like, we might see some side-by-side action, maybe 3 wide once or twice, but that was a constant every single lap. These drivers were 3, sometimes 4 wide somewhere on the track, and it was just wild to see.
And I think you brought up a great point when you were talking with Michael there about the fact that a good portion of this race, he spent it outside of the top 10. And then because of all the different varying strategies, lo and behold, there he is up in the race lead when it mattered the most.
Yeah, I mean, these drivers are going to be putting themselves in the best spots possible by the end of the race. And it's one of those things where you never really know how the race is going to come to an end until maybe the final 20 laps when you'll find out where someone's at.
Well, the question now is, 1 driver is in. Who will be the other 7? The continuation of that question will be answered when these drivers head to the short track of Nashville next week. We're going to be having the call here at Flatout Racing Network. The following week, we whittle it down from 12 to 8 at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. And we're going to be very interesting to see who those 8 drivers are going to be. There's a couple of drivers that we can maybe speculate just based on the playoff points they accumulated that they're going to be locked in. But you mentioned it. Nashville next week, really out of the 3 races here this round, that's going to kind of be the wild card race.
Yeah, always short tracks. You never know when you're going to get caught up in something. I think the leader might be the safest spot, but even there, you could be bumped and run out of the way. And you do not want to be in the middle of the field when you're at a short track because you never know when the next accident is going to happen and if you can get out of the way.
Cannot wait to see what is going to happen there next week at the Nashville Speedway, but Las Vegas is in the books. Michael Frisch is locked into the next round, and that's going to conclude our coverage here tonight for the FTF Grand National Series. A little bit of catch and go here tonight again with doing the dual broadcasts, but Sam, it's been a good one.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure to be been able to do this. I mean, I know we had to hop in. The first couple of laps were a little awkward at times, but we finally got it figured out by the end, and the racers continued to put on a great show.
No doubt about it. They do every single week here in this series and expecting nothing less down the home stretch here of this season. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in here tonight. We hope you enjoyed our coverage. We'll see you guys next week at Nashville. For Samuel Dyer, I'm Seth Cole. You've been watching another production here tonight, courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.